How's everybody doing today? Carmen, good to see you, brother. Hi, Sherry. David, love to see you guys on camera. It should be a small, intimate meeting today, but guess what? I like these type of meetings because we get to hang out and talk and discuss goals. And as you guys saw, the title of this today is going to be 2025, right around the corner. Really, it's like tomorrow. And goals, health goals, but most importantly, how to make it a lifestyle that you can fall in love with, right? Because you're not going to do it unless you love it. Make sense? If you fall in love with it, you do it. Do what you love what you do. And so I like it. Like Joe right now is walking. He's out there. It's a beautiful day. Sun is shining. He That's something you can fall in love with right there. All right. So where are you guys all located? Feel free to unmute yourself. Let's hang out a little bit. David, Sherry, Carmen, I know we got, is it New Jersey? Remind me? Yeah, I got it right. New Jersey. What about you, David? Where are you located? You got to unmute yourself there if you can find it. Yeah, David, that's you. Texas. Oh, we got a Steelers fan.
There we go.
Grant. It's a good time to be a Steelers fan.
Marcus
Yes.
is David.
Hey, David.
I'm located in Tsawwassen.
Awesome. Oh, so we're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're neighbors.
We're neighbors, right across from each other.
I'm the guy that said I'd sell my boat over to Nanoose Bay, and
Yeah, I know. I remember now. That's cool. I'm glad to actually hang out with you for once. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah.
Yeah, David, it's got a fascinating story. David, tell us a little bit about that sailing experience.
Oh well, before I retired, I've been sailing since I was a kid. So before I retired as an airline pilot, I started a project to. I wanted to always sail around the world, so I started a project to have a boat built. And I searched the globe trying to find something that wasn't going to hit a log and sink. So I ended up with an aluminum boat being built in northern France. My wife was adamant that she would never do this with me. Till we went to France, saw the boat, and I took her sailing a few times, and then I sort of used the fish and bait tactic of, well, we'll just go, just a day sail. So we went up to Jersey and back, and she liked that. And I said, well, we got to go around the corner of Brest, the west coast of France. So she did that, and she liked that. And then we were stuck going across the Bay of Biscay, which is one of the most treacherous bodies of water around if the wind's not cooperating. I talked her into that, and so we did that. And I sort of did the same thing all the way down, and finally got her down to the Canary Islands. And I said, "Well, now what are you going to do? You either fly home, or we go across the Atlantic." So we went across the Atlantic, and we thoroughly enjoyed the Caribbean and up into the Bahamas. And that's when COVID struck, and we got our journey got shut down, and had to ship the boat home. So I've been home since March, April of 2020. So yeah, it's been absolutely fabulous. So
Wow.
so
That's inspiring.
I've been actually I've been an athlete all my life, and I'm 67 now, and I'm was getting concerned about pumping iron because I could feel it in my joints. I'm going like, yeah, I can't keep doing this forever. And then I was watching, I might have been Sean Baker or Anthony Chafee. They both use X3.
Yep.
And I started laughing, thinking, that's stupid. Like I've used bands before. There's no possible way those. Then I started looking into it, and I thought, you know what, $500, let's do it. And I did it. And my first workout, I was humbling. It was humbling. And but the thing that was amazing is in very short order. Maybe it's because I've had the background, but in short order, my strength, my endurance just skyrocketed. I went from barely doing the white band to the black, and now I'm using the elite. Although I can't yet do the deadlifts with the elite. I got it partial way up. I'm watching you and thinking, how does he do that? He's so small. He's so skinny. Well done. So mind you, I had my hip replaced 2 years ago, and that it was the X3 that it was the only thing that could get me my balance back and my muscle strength back just by going very gradual with the white band and doing. I couldn't even do 5 single leg squats. I could barely do 5 normal squats. But very soon, there I am. Now I'm up in the black. I think I'm using black and white combined in the squats now, and I'm doing 35 squats, and that's pretty good for a guy with a fake hip.
Wow, that's incredible.
So now
There
I
you
just
go,
have to
guys.
lose my blubber.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So 2025. So what's the current diet like right now?
Uh, Partially carnivore right now, of course, with the Christmas season, it gets challenging, and because I'm so pathetically weak at times. At times I'm really good, and then other times, so I've been pretty much carnivore the last while, and I've just joined. I can't remember his name now. There's a fellow that's doing a dry fast for 5 days.
Oh gosh, dry fasting. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that. That's how I'm going to start the year, January 2nd until the 7th. I'll do a dry fast, and that'll probably take me right down to where I want to be.
What's a dry fast? Help somebody who has no effing clue.
Okay, it is. You obviously know what fasting is. You don't eat. Well, this is you don't eat and you don't drink anything for 5 days.
Oh, all right. So you basically
Yeah.
make pretend you're Jesus walking in the desert.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty
Okay,
much.
got it.
Pretty much. Yeah. And
Sounds awesome.
Well, they
Well,
might as well call
well,
it they call it the Jesus fast instead.
I've done many water fasts for 5 days, and it's not that it's challenging, of course, but the dry fast. That's why I joined their little club to do it, so you have support and you can lose upwards of 20 pounds of blubber in a week, which sounds ridiculous, but according to Jason Fung, you don't lose any muscle mass or very, very little.
And that's the key.
Yeah, I did
I
it
thi-
once already.
Go ahead, Mike. I can't. You're just cutting in and out there. You did it once already.
Because I'm searching it. It's a lot easier if you're full on carnivore than if you're playing with carbs. That's
Yeah, I realize
because I've done fasting in the past and it was always brutal. But the further on you are with the carnivore, so there's that. And then the other side of it is the philosophy or the idea behind it is your body still needs water, and it's not going to take it from vital organs, and it's not going to take it from your musculature. It's going to take it from fat.
Yeah.
And when a fat cell is depleted of water, it's destroyed
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Whereas when you burn fat, some philosophies say that it's the fat cell is diminished versus eliminated.
Yeah.
And I guess with dry fasting, it's eliminated. So that's the benefit there.
Yeah, before I start the dry fast, I'm going to be definitely in ketosis. I'm in ketosis most of the time. In fact, I started doing the ketogenic type of protocols more as a medical intervention because I was crippled in 1988 by inhalation of organophosphates and destroyed my nervous system. And the only way out of it was doing the epilepsy protocol from Johns Hopkins. And that was my introduction to it. And I haven't really gone back. And I was told by a guy named Professor Abudomnia from Duke University as a head neurotoxicologist. He said, well, you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You'll never fly again. And I had 3 separate times where I got poisoned. And every time I lost my license for up to 2 or 3 years. And every single time I rebounded. And it was the only thing that did it. And it's funny because it was a very slow process of learning what actually was going on because the industry was silent, just totally silent about the cause of the injury. And I stumbled across it only because I was in a medical office and another pilot was there and he had identical symptoms. And I go, like, what? I thought I was a one-off. So anyway, it was the keto led into carnivore, and the only reason I play with carnivore is, like I say, on occasion I falter.
Yeah, no one's perfect. And what I would say on that quest or that journey into carnivore, there's a lot of delicious ways to approach carnivore
Oh, I
outside
know.
of, right? I want to suggest a book that I just purchased. It's called Carnivore in the Kitchen by
Ah,
Courtney Luna.
okay.
So really great one, guys. So she's especially for kids. If you guys have kids and you're trying to help them get on animal based, so she's, because let's be honest. You try to get kids going carnivore, that's not going to really be very practical or realistic. But
Absolutely.
showing them and helping them understand animal based, which is going to be fruit and honey and syrup and things that they'll actually eat, and you can create recipes that they love, pizzas, pancakes, waffles, all that stuff, right? So the thing with carnivore is now there's so many recipes out there. If you just follow TikTok, Instagram, or any one of those, that you could find almost any comfort food you're craving or looking
Yeah,
for
yeah,
as a carnivore recipe.
yeah. I just made your super, what I call rocket coffee this morning with the egg and the collagen and the kale. Yeah, it's fabulous. And I won't eat now until late this afternoon.
I mean, listen, it's my cheat code. It's my
Yeah,
cheat code because you guys are all fast. If you have any experience down the intermittent fasting protocols, like a lot of people will do black coffee or tea or just drink water, right? And that's standard. Now, I felt since I train early in the morning and I'm up very early that I wanted something just to feel good, especially cognitively, because other outside of the X3 bar training that I do, I'm standing at a desk talking to people. So I don't need a ton of energy to do that, but I do need to have a lot of cognitive function. I need to
yeah,
have clarity. I don't want to have anything feeling like I need to digest. So I have felt that and I have removed coffee, by the way, for our carnivore zealots that are like, coffee is a plant and a bean. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
I actually believe more as plants being more medicinal than a diet. I look at coffee for me as almost a medicinal plant, just because I enjoy it that way. I've taken it out, and it's one of those things that the benefits for me outweigh the negatives in my own experience. And everybody's got to test it. I tell everybody you got to be your own N=1 experiment. You are not the same as anybody else, right? And if you can't make it a lifestyle that you love and enjoy every single day, you're not going to do it. You're going to set yourself up for failure.
That's right.
Think, for example, the 75 hard. Anyone ever done a 75 hard? So a 75 hard challenge is 2 workouts each 45 minutes. One's got to be inside, one's got to be outside. Pages of a book. I think there's other, if you guys, I'll have to pull it up. There's some other challenges. Anyways, you can't sustain that forever. You can just create some good habits in there, but everything that you have to start thinking about, even when you start looking at 2025 goals. I mean, David, you doing a dry fast, great start, but no one's going to continue to do that. Like, that's a great interventional tool. Even with carnivore, if you feel like carnivore is going to be something you can't sustain, then most likely you're not going to do it unless you fall in love with how you feel and the foods that you're eating.
Yeah,
Right. And so that's my biggest suggestion to people. It's like, yeah, do your research, find out why this particular style of lifestyle is beneficial to you. For me, the carnivore approach to me, I mostly enjoy not having to feel like I'm hungry all the time. Right. That's when you're talking about tapping into insulin, which I believe is one of your master hormones for guys, especially. We're talking about two big levers, right? Testosterone and insulin. Insulin is all lifestyle related. So the reason why the ketogenic diet has become so popular as well as carnivores, because once you start controlling insulin, you tap into a insulin sensitivity, which in turn starts tapping into ketones as your primary source of fuel, which in turn recognizes that your body's going to burn through the fat it already has on its body. So that's why it's the easiest way to really lose weight,
yeah,
because it's actually the most beneficial too, because it's a twofold. Testosterone naturally is improving through that type of diet. So when you talk carnivore, it's hard to overeat steak, right? like just try it. Like how many ribeyes can you actually take down? Right? Eggs too. How many eggs can you really take down?
Apparently,
Oh.
you don't have much experience with what's considered a rodizio or a Brazilian barbecue.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I can go all you can eat. But meaning even if I go all you can eat, it's not going to affect me. And what I've kind of when we talk about cheat codes, what I've kind of hacked in my own life is like, okay, well, I know based on my understanding because I studied under author and great kind of one of the OGs, original guys in the intermittent fasting world. His name's Ori Hofmeckler. You guys can go look him up. Ori Hofmeckler. He wrote a book called The Warrior Diet. Very popular. And he took circadian rhythm, right? The circadian rhythm. And so he talked about two different nervous systems that we have access to. You guys probably heard of this. It's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic being your fight or flight, the parasympathetic being your rest and relaxation. So it was fascinating. And even if there's not necessary evidence or research out there, it really resonated in my soul because I've always been somebody who naturally felt like, my mom would always tell me, Marcus, your name is Mighty Warrior. And so I was always fascinated by the warrior culture, whether it was the Spartans, the Romans, all these warrior cultures. And I found a lot of these guys would undereat during the day and feast in the evening as an army or come together. And they were all incredible physiques. And so what I've learned from Ori was that if you follow the foods in the sympathetic nervous system and stay super light during the morning and day when you need the most energy, basically, if we were mimicking our ancestors, that would be why we were hunting. And in the evening, we feasted. Then life could be enjoyable for me almost every day because it's like psychologically speaking, I can keep very little in me as long as my energy is high, knowing at the end of the day I get to feast.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's not for everybody. I know some guys in the extra group that like to actually put all their meal up front. I'm like, oh, I would hate that. Like you would start your day and eat as one big meal. I'm like, that sounds horrible for me, personally, because I have 4 kids and I always think the most enjoyable part of my day is to actually be with my family and eat food. Right. So you got to organize it for your lifestyle. But for me, I've created a lifestyle where um, I get to feast every single night. I usually break it with eggs and smoked salmon. I'll eat any type of combination of meat after that. And then my dessert is typically an aged cheddar and some sort of like prosciutto or salami. And I do that within 4 hours. Now I could eat those meals every day. I'm boring. I mean, I'll experiment with these books and do some stuff, especially with the kids. But I've kind of created a lifestyle for me where like the foods that I eat every single day, I feel amazing with, and I love it. I know what to expect. I know the outcome. So that's my recommendation for you is you got to figure out what those foods that you eat on a daily basis, are they giving you energy or are they taking energy away from you? Are they getting you to your goals? Like if maybe your goals are physique goals, maybe your goals are performance goals. Maybe it's just how you feel, right? Because it has to be your how you look, how you feel, how you perform, obviously with the X3. So looking at it for you and start asking yourself, I mean, this is where you have to record it for a little bit. Is there certain foods that like when you eat it, it doesn't make you feel good? And maybe that's what you got to eliminate and take out for a while. And so I mean the art of reflection, right? We don't reflect anymore, we kind of just eat impulsively. But that's where this is where almost like when you start your year in 2025, it's almost great to go more on like eliminate and then add back in. Right. Dr. Ken Berry is a great one if you're looking into
Yeah.
carnivore because it's sustainable. Like you got to look for people that you resonate with too. Like at the end of the day, there's a lot of great carnivore doctors out there, but if you're like, that's a little hardcore for me, then you're never going to do that. But if you're like, oh, I get it, I like this guy, and I not only resonate with his personality, but I like the way he does it, and explains it and communicates it, and it helps me understand it. And then you start looking for these influencers or these like people that are incredibly have amazing recipes, and you start following them, and then before you know it, you're tapping into a lifestyle, right? And so for me, bone broth is one of those things I recommend everybody get into.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so simple, and there's so much benefits in the bone broth between collagen, glycine, magnesium, copper, all these things that your body needs, all those trace vitamins and minerals in that Moro bone. And you could sip on that all day and feel satiated. I also found a great recipe I can get you guys so you don't have to go buy electrolytes. You can make them yourself. And it's basically just buying the potassium, the magnesium, and the like Redmond sea salt and combining them in the perfect amount. And then you just put it in a big jar and you put a little teaspoon in whenever you. I'm a huge fan of that. I'll put that almost in every drink.
Me too.
You too? Yeah, it makes me
It's
feel
cheap.
great.
I mean, yeah, you can make it for a whole year for like $10 because the only thing
Seriously,
expensive in it is the potassium's maybe $10 that'll last you a year, and that's it. Every baking soda, sea salt, and magnesium sulfate are dirt cheap. So yeah,
it's so true, and I feel like that's one of the biggest deficiencies in people when they're not feeling good if they go through carnivores. They don't have that. Like if you make that a priority, it makes carnivore so much easier and really like fasting enjoyable if you are going to fast, especially. And like I said, I don't fast. I'm at a place now in my life where between that, David, that coffee, I'll do 2 of those a day, by the way. And between that coffee and just bone brothing all day, I just that sustains me up until about 5 p.m. And then it's at that point where I start, opening up the feeding window per se. But it's not like I'm depriving myself. Like there's massive nutrients and even, quote unquote calories and energy in there.
Yeah.
But it's giving me enough fuel in the way that my body recognizes it needs to stay super focused and driven, which is what I need during the day. I don't want to go into any sort of crash. So if you do indulge in carbohydrates, which I see some guys like in our community do, whether it's Johan in Sweden or Kevin or all these guys, I mean, there's supplements out there that you could take to counter that. Just recognize I did that and I didn't like the way I felt personally. So if you have a physique goal and you're looking to swell out and look at, bodybuild or something, that's obviously a time where you can add those in. But if you're looking at something more as like a lifestyle that you want to just feel, look, and perform well, like it doesn't have to necessarily be you're looking like the most cut jacked person you've ever seen. I that's what I prefer at this point in my life. So you got to
a
be.
suggestion for bone broth if you don't have the tenacity to make your own, which I don't. Although I hear it's not that hard, right? If you can
Oh, it's easy.
bones. But anyway, Aldi's has it fairly cheap. You got to make sure it's bone broth, not just broth, because broth doesn't have any protein in it typically. But it's fairly inexpensive for one of those, a cardboard container like that big. I'm guessing it's 20 ounces or so. Fairly inexpensive. Oh, and another
Yeah.
thing, like there's a beef bone broth powder that's surprisingly quite tasty. It's vanilla flavored, and I put it in my coffee. And if any of you like the latte, the thick creamy latte flavor, you put that, and I don't think it has any sugar. I forget what it's sweetened with, but you put it in your coffee, blend it up with a little mixer thing, and it makes it frothy and tasty. It tastes like a vanilla latte without any of the sugar.
There you go. Yeah, mine. So typically mine has butter. Like lately, just because I'm
I
in
do
that
that
comfort
too.
season.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in that comfort season right now. I'll add a little heavy whipping cream too. So butter,
Yeah.
heavy whipping cream. Depends on the day. Sometimes I'll throw in a scoop of collagen, but now that I'm doing the bone broth, I just feel like it's not needed as much. I do that electrolytes in there, maybe even some cocoa powder, right? Just to get that little hint of chocolate and the whole raw egg. Now people are saying like, is that good for you? Well, the egg's basically cooking inside of that as I'm blending it up, right? It's hot enough. So it just becomes a really delicious, frothy, creamy type of experience. So you got to try that out for yourself. But I do a couple of those a day. Similarly, you should try, Grant, is the bone broth with an egg blended. It's
Oh,
also very
wow.
delicious.
Yeah.
And for people that are like, well, bones they're so easy. So basically, you just go to your local grocery store, look for Moro bones, find very, very cheap, put them in the oven. Put 3 or 4 of them in the oven at about 400 degrees for 20, 30 minutes. Get them a little bit of brown, and then you literally throw them in the slow cooker. Okay, so you get a little crock pot, right? Top that all the way to the top of water, and there you go. Like you could, if you really wanted to put some apple cider vinegar in there to like extract it, but you don't have to if you try to be carnivore. And you put it on high for 3 or 4 hours, and then you turn it down to low, and literally 12 to 24 hours later, you've got
Yeah.
broth. And I mean, it's that simple. And that thing you just scoop out throughout the day over the next few days. You just stay hydrated with that. I do that instead of water, and it's awesome. So
You just refrigerate it in the meantime?
no, I keep it on. It's
Oh,
always
you
on.
Crock pot on.
Yeah, keep the crock pot on, and I just because
Oh.
I end up I'm sipping on it like as soon as my cup gets empty, I go back for another, and I'm just sipping on it all day long. So that's how I stay both hydrated and really satiated throughout my morning and day.
Cool.
So you keep your crock pot going all,
Yeah,
all the
you
time?
can turn it to warm. You can
Yeah.
turn it just to warm,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, because I'm gonna over the next few days, I'm gonna finish that whole thing.
Yeah, because I refrigerate mine and I warm it up on the stove, but it's an extra step. I didn't realize you could keep it going, but
Yeah, because if you think about it, you're still extracting all those nutrients from the bones as it seeps in there. And I
yeah.
can imagine back in the day they kept stews there forever. So yeah, no, I'm not worried about anything happening and it going bad. It's hasn't happened. It's been
Well,
just as great.
it's
Sweeter
proof in
day
the
better.
pudding. Proof in the pudding that you've got a good broth when you put it in the fridge because it turns to gelatin. And it's extremely high in collagen. If you're looking at if it's watery, then you screwed up. But I don't know how you could screw it up. It's like you say. It's what I do when I put it in the oven. I do the same thing, but I pre-salt the bones, and that seems to bring out the flavor too. And then I put them in the crock pot. But
I mean, I'm telling you
you
that
can live on this stuff for forever.
exactly. That one habit alone could be a game changer for 2025 for everybody. I
Yeah.
promise. Let's go. Just
Yeah.
try it. Just try it. The other thing I've been doing is just a teaspoon a day of cod liver oil. That's an old school Sally Fallon type of thing, vitamin D and K2 and A and all that stuff. And then, it's a tiny bite. I keep a beef liver in the freezer. And so that's kind of been my like cold flu season pack. And I will say, like, my wife recently just got hit with, who knows, it could be another, the 20th variant of whatever
Yeah.
whatever started in 2020. But it took her out. She was out for days. And I'm talking about fever, migraine headaches, congestion, phlegmy throat, like just cold and sore and everything, right? It's kind of going around during the season. And last night, I started feeling it. I was like, oh no, I got this mastermind. I've got a big day ahead of me. My head's pounding. I'm getting chills. I'm getting cold. And throughout the night, I'm waking up and I'm just sipping on broth. And I found um, this Australian supplement that's basically zinc, and it's called KI. Have you guys looked into that? You look at the exact. Let me go there. Anyways, I was dosing that. I was dosing that every few hours. It's called Key Cold and Flu 30 tablets. So I'm gonna put it in the chat feature here. And I started dosing this, and at 6 a.m. I felt back to normal. I literally beat it within 8 hours. I thought I was gonna be taken out just my wife. She's been out for 3 days, so I've been kind of having to man up the house with the 4 kids. So that little tablet right there, I just put in the chat feature. What it is, it's got. So basically, it's andrographis, ginger, and zinc. It's an Australian formula. Again, that's where I believe plants can be medicinal, right? So it's a multi-herb formula to help reduce fever, clear congestion, relieve sore throat, cough, and headache, reduce duration and severity of acute infections, and speed up recovery. And apparently, you just take that right when you start feeling symptoms coming on. Here I am. I'm serious. I was migraine headache all night, chills, fever, all of it went in and out in less than 12 hours. So, I mean, I mean, granted, I think it has a lot to do with my lifestyle, like, right, being carnivore, drinking a bunch of broth daily, like all these habits that I'm doing. But at the same time, my wife's like, "You're careful what audience you're speaking to here." You're like, "I've been out for 3 days. Yeah, you had a little bit of a miracle, but that's not nice to tell people about." It's like, I'm sorry, babe. It is a miracle to me. Like most people are taken out by that stuff for days. And so just the fact that that went in and out through me, I'm pretty. I gotta say, there's a testament to carnivore. There's a testament here to um, the lifestyle.
It's interesting because I do the same thing, although I don't take that supplement. When I feel like I'm coming down with something, I go straight to the bone broth. I do cold water immersion, which sounds counterintuitive, and fasting, and it just blows out of my system really quick. You know, and I'm not, and yeah, I've got 20 years on it, 25 years on you. So things slow down a fair amount when you're getting up pushing 70, but you don't have to slow down. That's the point. Is you keep active and you keep going. And huge proponent of carnivore. Like I screw up, sure, but I mean, like it's the mainstay.
Eggs and meat are the two things. And what I will say is, that, I mean, yeah, you're fast. Your body tells you when you're sick because you're
Yeah,
not hungry, right? So yesterday, I was just I wasn't hungry. When I started feeling coming down, usually I'd be feasting at that point. I was just like, I can't. My body. So your body naturally goes into fast mode, right? And that's why it's a self-healing mechanism.
yeah.
I did put that. So it's Carnivore in the Kitchen. Courtney Luna. That's the book's name. You can get it on Amazon. She's really cool. You can follow her. Um, yeah, and then I would say how you break your fast. I don't know if you guys. I've got a couple guys. Some of my colleagues right now. They're big into eggs, like drinking it raw. Um, but there's a lot of health benefits to eggs. It's just a matter of, I think, depending on how you react to it. I most days are doing anywhere from 10 to a dozen eggs a day.
Wow.
That's just because I'll do about 2 or 3 throughout my AM between the coffees and the broth. And then my first meal typically is smoked salmon and eggs. So I'll fry up those eggs in butter, and then I go to Costco, I get all this stuff. Got 4 kids, it's just like the easiest way. And I get some smoked salmon to put on top, and
Yeah.
that's typically how I start. I mean, because if you start your meal that way, it's going to be hard to mess up. Trust me. And then you're basically whatever type of meal you're gonna eat after that, if you're still hungry, which to me I'm always am. So it's could be like I don't discriminate. It could be sausage, it could be chicken thighs, it could be drumsticks, it could be, obviously I love ribeyes. My budget afforded ribeyes every single day. But beef ribs, easy stuff. I call myself the lazy carnivore. Like I'm always looking, what's something I can get in and out 10 minutes or less. I have a Ninja Grill. You guys ever use one of those things? I've got the air fryers. So
Yeah.
so the Ninja Grill you can throw on, and depending on what you're cooking, you know, 5 minutes, flip on the other side, another 5 minutes, got your meal done. Maybe a little bit longer on some of the recipes. Similarly with like crisp it, like if you use the air crisp, but so easy. Salt, pepper for me, and garlic. Again, you gotta mess around with spices based on what you guys love and what you can tolerate. Some people are obviously don't believe in any spices because it's a plant and it's got oxalates and all that jumbo. It doesn't bother me. So you got to mess around with that, but I will tell you, you just got to find something that's easy for you, convenient, and that you do day in day out that you're willing to do. That's my greatest advice for 2025 for you is do something that you're willing to do every day and find joy in it. Because if you won't do it. Like the X3 bar. The whole reason why I love it now is I found something. I'm someone who likes to work out every day. It's hard for me to take a day of rest. So met with Coach Johan in Sweden and found a split that I could work every day other than Sunday, which is my day of rest. So I just have Mondays chest, Tuesday is back and calves. Wednesday is basically quads, which would be your superhero split squat or your front squat. Thursday would be shoulders. Friday would be arms, biceps and triceps, and then Saturday is the deadlift and hamstring curls, right? And so my workout is it's really easy. Listen, it's you're shooting for 40 seconds time under tension. That's it. That's all I can tell you. So you're doing 2 sets. Let's just say for today for quads, I would have to do 2 sets at the right leg and 2 sets on the left leg for the split squat, another 2 sets for front squat. But you don't graduate a band or go any heavier on a band until you could at least get 40 seconds time under tension on that band. And really, you're shooting for that mind-body connection. So nice, slow, eccentric movement, pause, shoot up. And I get it. Everybody's got their own philosophies. What you got to recognize is they all work, right? I know Daniel in the X3 community is really big on super, super light bands, lots and lots and lots of reps, right? I do enjoy getting stronger. I like to I like to see if I can hit the elite band. So
Exactly.
it's my background, right? Coming out of that CrossFit world, coming out of the powerlifting world, coming out of the football player world. So I'm not trying to bodybuild.
Yeah,
I'm
me
just trying to
neither.
do, right? I'm just trying to do something that I like. So you got to ultimately do what you like. And so you can try the hypertrophy program. You can go to the original program, or you can try something like Coach Johan's. And then I saw a post yesterday. Someone asked, well, do you think it's okay, Dr. John, if someone does calisthenics or pull-ups? I don't know if you guys saw that post. And push-ups and some core. He said, well, no, that's not going to give you the results. Okay, I get it. But I just enjoy it. So at the end of the day, I use that as a bonus because what I do is I finish my X3 workout. I have a pull-up bar that I'm looking at right here. I just do 1 max set just because I like to. I like to see, like with my kids, like, hey, watch daddy at 42 get 22 pull-ups stripped, right? It's fun. And then I do a max set of push-ups. That goes back. You remember Herschel Walker back in the day? He was all about calisthenics. So I just enjoy it. Like it's like old school jail, calisthenic body weight workout. And 1 set of core. And then I'll go outside and I truly believe that we're more meant to be sprinters than we are long distance runners. And I can tell you if you just look at a sprinter's body, what's more attractive, the marathon runner or the sprinter?
Yeah, Dr. Sean O'Mara is
Yes.
really big on sprinting. Well, to burn visceral fat too, that's critical. So I'm kind of hoping to try it in 2025. Even with my hip, I figure by the time I lose my 15 pounds, I'll be light enough to give it a shot. But I got to be careful.
Well,
Last thing I
well,
want
and
to do
David,
is blow my hip.
it doesn't have to be a sprint either. So when you look at this idea of visceral fat, right? So the visceral fat is basically what surrounds the organs. It's like
Yeah,
toxic sludge. So our entire goal is to get rid of that because there's the biggest indicator of a shortened lifespan is your
yeah,
visceral fat and low testosterone for men. So the best thing you could do is get rid of that. Now sprinting, you can translate that not just to running. It could be on an Airdyne bike. It could be on a rower. It could be on anything where you're just doing an interval style of training where you go all out. If you look at Dr. Sean Baker, right? He's a world record holder on the rower.
yeah.
So if something's going on with your hips that doesn't allow you to do the sprint, then try to find another module that you can do and mimic that type of all out training capacity with a little bit of rest. Like for me, I just go outside and do a sprint and then walk back from my recovery. And I'll do as many of those until I'm done. And that's how I finish my workouts.
I've actually been implementing kettlebell snatches and swings with a 1 minute rest in between sets, and that gets my heart going. I'm a
Yeah, guy. And so David, me and you obviously been having a great chat. Grant too.
yeah,
Tom,
sorry.
Eric, Joe, Mike, Dan, anybody here, any goals for 2025 you want to discuss? Anything that you want some advice on or help? We're here for you. This is what we want these masterminds to be all about. Anybody? Are you just listening in?
Bueller.
Bueller? Yeah, right.
Bueller.
Let me
Anyone?
tell something else
Bueller?
about sprints. And regrettably, I moved a few years ago and no longer have a steep hill by my house, but I used to. And sprinting up, and not huge sprints. I'm talking about maybe, I'm trying to think, that hill might have been 1,500 feet, a fifth of a mile or something like that. And not necessarily sprinting full out, but as best as you can go for going uphill. It's much easier on the joints. I would just sprint up, walk down, sprint up, walk down, maybe 5 or 6 times. And I guarantee you that was better on my overall fitness level than running 6 miles a day. No doubt. It would take a lot less time. So it had a lot of the principles of X3, right? It's much more concentrated, much more intense. You're done quicker and you get in a lot better shape. I love doing that. I miss my hill.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. You again, do something that's going to be something you fall in love with, right? Sprinting, I enjoy it. It's my football background. I've always loved sprinting. It's always translated nicely to me. And the truth is, there's studies that show it dramatically increases things like growth hormone and testosterone in men and burning visceral fat, right? So it just makes complete sense to me. It's your biggest bang for your buck. And I think ultimately, like obviously get your steps in. I know people talk about steps. So if you need to do like that cardio, just go for a nice walk. But you don't need to do long distance running unless you just love it. But just be careful with that because there's potential side effects for the long term when you go do stuff like that.
So I was finally able to get my audio going here. So some of my goals for 2025 is currently I'm turning 67, and a year ago I would currently weigh about 255, and I had gotten my weight down to about 210 just by doing calorie restriction and getting steps in, and drinking a lot of water and obviously sleep. But now I'm gonna try to create a lifestyle versus just try to lose the weight, and that's really my goal. And so these learning sessions are very valuable to me to get my mind focused on that and create that lifestyle that I can, like you said, something that I enjoy and want to do every day. Just like I was walking right now. I love to walk. I like to get that hour. It clears my head, gets my steps in, it gets me focused for the day.
I love it, Joe. And what I would say, I mean, the entire goal, like it's you intervene for a while with the calorie restriction, but I think everyone's goal here should be intuitive eating, right? The key is if we could, I don't believe in a world where we're ever supposed to count calories and the size of our food.
Right.
Now, and I think that's a lot to do with us putting not the species appropriate diet in our body. You have to count calories and you have to measure your food if you're using the wrong foods. That's why it can work with any food calorie counting if you weigh and measure it. And you could do a Snickers diet if you wanted to. That'd wreak havoc on your body if you had under 2,000 calories, just to make it up, right? Who wants to do something like that? So what I would suggest to you, Joe, is do some sort of challenge for 30 days. Like January is World Carnivore Month. And there's a lot of people that join Dr. Sean Baker, and a lot of people will do things like that. You could do Dr. Ken Berry's. He's got something called beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. So you just eat beef, butter, and bacon, eggs for 30 days. Right? And so something like that, you can look into different variations, classic carnivore. I mean, usually you got to pick it, but you'll just stick to that format. You won't deprive yourself. You'll eat when you're hungry, and you'll just do that for 30 days.
Yeah.
You'll eat as much as you want, when you want, of those certain type of foods. That would
Right.
be my suggestion on creating a lifestyle. Then from there, you can start asking yourself, okay, based on this experience and what happened to my body and how I felt, now I can start incorporating different things. Or I like how I felt. I'm going to keep going here.
Yeah, because I already do the 16-hour fasting window. I mean, I'm accustomed to that. I like it. I feel good in that, and I want to eat the right things during the eating window and avoid all the snacks and everything. So instead of a snack, I'd rather have a cup of bone broth. So I'm going to start introducing that. I'm going to do the Aldi trick, try to just go get some of that and keep it in stock. I mean, just try to avoid unhealthy. I mean, I eat a lot of nuts. I don't know if peanuts are bad for us or not, but I eat a lot.
Yeah, you want to take the nuts out. Trust me, super inflammatory and
Okay.
so hard. It's so easy to overeat. And think about it, even if you go back to the hunter-gatherer paleo style of approach, most of those nuts you'd have to find a way to first of all find them and crack them, and you would eat such a small amount in comparison when you could find them. So that's the way I look at it. Is like, you can go back to what you could hunt and gather, but the more you go down that realm, you're going to say, well, what is actually seasonal? What is actually local to me? Like, what could I actually access right now in terms of fruits, for example, during December in the area that I live, right? So when you start actually bringing it down to that common practical level, you're going to find, well, most of that's going to come down just to meat and eggs. And even you can experiment with dairy. I seem to do okay with it. Just be cognizant and careful with dairy, because dairy could be one of those trigger foods for people. It releases a bunch of oxytocin and all these other things, and it's really easy to overeat. So you got to experiment with yourself on it. I would recommend if you're trying to lose weight, probably best to take it out first and foremost. And then if you are maintaining, you can try to add it back in. But I would say a lot of carnivore issues I find with people that are trying to lose is because they keep dairy in.
Yeah. For me, weight loss, weight is really just a number. I just want to look good, feel good, be able to perform, do all the things that you've been talking about, just feel good about everything. The weight is just a number, so.
Yes. Roger says, first time listener, carnivore extra user. Hardest challenge for me is staying off the alcohol. I do like me a good wine or scotch. Any recommendations for Roger?
I wish him good luck. I like having wine. That's where I fall too. Is I have wine, and that when I have wine, it's funny. I think I developed an insulin sensitivity or resistance. So I drink wine, I will balloon up in water weight overnight. I could gain 3 to 4 pounds overnight. That's ridiculous. But then it takes 2 to 3 days to lose it. But I always feel
Yeah.
better after I lose it.
I mean, honestly, yeah. For me, it's not worth it. So if
Yeah, I
it's
agree
worth,
with you.
so you got to almost look at it this way. Like there are going to be times in your life where it's celebratory and you're going to be in an event where maybe it's worth it. But because of how it affects me personally, my mornings are sacred to me. Everything I do spirals off that domino effect. So you got to create a lifestyle of which, for example, if I know I use something called a full focus planner. And so I've got my daily big three, my other tasks. I'm looking at my day, I'm taking notes. Um, and I'm looking at this all day long, but it all begins with my morning ritual because I have 4 kids. So if I'm going to do anything for myself, I have to beat the time they wake up because I want to be present and available to them as a father and to my wife. Right. So for me, if I create my day in such a way where I have everything that I want to accomplish before they wake up, it's a domino, it's a compound effect. It begins with the morning, and then I have the spiritual practices that I do, and then I have these things where I'm doing personal development before I even get into the gym to do the X3, right? There's a small thing, it's your dominoes. That coffee is kind of for me, it's a part of the comfort. It's the ritual of that morning that I enjoy to get me to do all those things. So when I start my day around 8 for my work day, I've got all these things accomplished. So that's where I'd recommend for you guys is get to figure out what those domino effects are. So that one habit dominoes to the next habit, dominoes to the next habit. There's usually one. It's called the compound effect. Darren Hardy, great book. Atomic Habits by James Clear, great book. Those are kind of a few examples. Look into it. The Full Focus Planner, if you're looking for a good planner to set goals, because you can do your goal statements. You can write a smarter goal, your key motivations, your next steps, streak trackers. You can talk about the goal being a body, mind, spirit. Maybe it's a love goal, family goal, community goal, money, work, hobbies, achievement, or versus a habit goal. I'm a huge fan of setting goals and looking at them every day and writing things down and reading it out loud. And then of course doing stuff like this, like being in a community around people that are all trying to be the best versions of themselves. The sun is shining very bright at me right now. Any questions, guys? Yeah, I mean, listen, it's again, we are here, December 18th. We're literally a week away from Christmas. So it is the time and it is the season. I guess a lot of people will end up indulging and doing a lot of things that they regret. And then everybody fills up the gym on New Year's and makes the resolutions. And, it's that whole cycle. And it's the most busiest time of the year. Everybody's got goals. And then how many actually those people end up doing what they wanted to do and stick with it? So all I can tell you is that you are not going to do what you don't enjoy. So create the lifestyle that you love and enjoy and find those healthy habits within it. Another great book you can look at, even Johan just wrote that X-Ray Superheroes book. There's a lot of great habits you can look at inside of the X-Ray Superheroes book. It's like $10 or something. Something to look at. Organ meats. Has everyone tried the organ meat seasonings like Pluck? No, I haven't tried that. I'd be interested. Any questions on how to do this stuff, guys? Questions on food, X3, lifestyle, reaching specific goals that you have for 2025 that you could use some advice on, suggestions. Coming down to the end of the mastermind here, but I want to open up the floor for you guys. Anybody?
Hey,
Right.
Marcus, just a quick question. I know Dr. Jaquish has always poo-poos whey protein as like said, you're way better off doing Fortigen. But just in terms of a variety of protein source where you get to feel like you're eating something substantive, is there any problem with whey protein in his mind, or?
I mean, I think because I used to do whey protein, I do like the whey concentrate, like grass-fed whey concentrate was what I used to do. I still feel like you're releasing like a little bit of an insulin release in doing those things. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I think you can use it, but I don't think you should create a lifestyle with it. Personally. I found because I used to use it a lot. I feel like it's a slippery slope because then you're like, what can I do to make this taste more like a milkshake?
Right.
Right. And you're just kind of going down that route. So I find personally, between what I've done with these coffees and broth, it gives me everything that I was craving. And then staying to the carnivore-based foods. I like the Kerrygold cheddar I get from Costco. It's like a grass-fed cheddar. It's a Dubliner. That seems to do really well for me. There's also a raw Swiss cheese you can buy there at Costco. Be careful with a lot of cheeses out there, right? American-made stuff is, I think, made Monsanto or something is kind of got one of their ingredients in there now. So you got to be careful where you source out your dairy. I also do whole fat yogurt. That works kind of like a comforting dessert for me. Heavy whipping cream. If I'm really indulging, like in it's Christmas time, and I know it's the worst thing ever, Starbucks, I'll do. For decades, my drink of choice was a grande pike in a venti cup topped with steam heavy cream. Here's the hack. Okay, I'll tell you why it's a hack. You're only paying for the price of a medium coffee, and you're basically getting a misto, and you're getting a large coffee with heavy whipping cream steamed.
Yeah.
Delicious. So if you're looking for like a comfort, cheap, guilt-free meal, no sugar, for a drink when you're out and about, remember this: grande pike in a venti cup topped with steam heavy cream, and you only spend a few bucks. Yeah, I know that the clean whipping cream, I get it, like the carcinogens and all that stuff that's in it. It's not going to be a perfect world, unfortunately, that we have maybe one day where we have raw whipping cream with everything. But you do what you got to do. Cool. Any other questions, guys? So we'll probably pick up this mastermind. Obviously, next Wednesday will be Christmas, and we'll pick it up in the new year. But we'll try to bring on some guests. If there's any topics that you want to focus on or guests that you want me to bring on, let me know. I don't know if you caught, there's 3 other masterminds. If you haven't watched them already, they've all been super informative and different from one another. Like this was just a more low key hangout sesh. But if you go to the first one, it was with Dr. John Jaquish and Mike Wozni, which was fascinating conversation. And then the second one was with Miles Clark, the chief medical officer at Primal Medical, and he went super deep into the peptide world, which was awesome. If you haven't seen that one. And then the third one, I brought on Coach Johan from Sweden, and we got pretty deep into things like nutrition and X3 programming. And so, Roger, all the recordings are in the featured section of the group. So if you just go to featured on the tab, I pin it to the top, and you can see all the 3 recordings there. And this recording will be there too.
Which group are you referring to?
Both groups, both Primal Medical and the X3 users group. I pin them in both groups because I basically, man both of those.
Thank
Cool.
you,
Any
Marcus.
any other questions, guys, before we go?
Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
to
everybody.
everybody. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys soon.
Merry Christmas.